Hello and welcome to lesson 1 of week 28. In this lesson, we are going to look at how to handle errors in stored procedures. My name is Mildred. Last week we looked at how to create stored procedures. We saw how we can call the stored procedures after creating. And we also said that the advantages of using stored procedure is seen when we want to reduce network traffic, because now we are no longer sending multiple lengthy SQL statements, but we are sending just the name of the stored procedure and the argument, if any. We also encourage reusability of code when we have the business logic centralized in the database. We have enhancement of security when it comes to access control, because we can give access to the stored procedure without access to the underlying tables. The disadvantage is seen when we have several stored procedures, and then the more the stored procedure, the more the memory usage. And when we have logical operations in the stored procedure, this will increase CPU usage also. Debugging stored procedures can be difficult, and maintenance can also be difficult as it requires higher skill set to maintain stored procedures. Now let's look at how we want to handle errors in stored procedures. We use handlers in MySQL, and we have the syntax for handling errors to be declare. We specify an action. We declare handler using the action we specified for a condition we are going to specify, and then after the condition we are going to declare a statement. So this is the syntax. So the action can either be exit or continue action. When we use exit like this for the action, what happens is that we terminate the execution of the block, and when we use continue, it just means that we continue execution of the block. So continue is written continue like this. The statement can be simple statements like a select statement, or a compound statement that we enclose within beginning and end, like we did when we created our stored procedure. Now that we know exactly what the syntax is, we can start. Now take note that you can roll back when you use an exit handler. So for instance, we're not going to illustrate that, but I'm just going to show you how to use the rollback statement like we did in part 1. So let's create a stored procedure. We want to use the circular database, and we want to use a table from the circular database. Let's look at the category table, for instance. This has lower number of columns here, so it will be easier to use. So let's look at what it has. Select all from category. So let's see what that holds. So we have category ID, name, and last update for the category table. We have a category ID 10 with the name games as the category with the last update. Let's say we want to trigger this duplicate error that will exit all of this. Now in my previous trial, I have inserted the series and the SOAP here. You won't find this religious series and SOAP in yours. So let's say we want to insert something at number 10. We want to insert real stories, and we want to insert it at 10 here. We want to trigger a duplicate error. So what I'll do here now is to create my stored procedure for an insert statement, and this is how we do that. We have seen previously how we create stored procedures, so I'm not going to explain that so much. You can refer to last week's lesson to see how you create a stored procedure. We first of all declare a delimiter like this. We want to change the default MySQL delimiter from semicolon to something else so that we can work with this. When we have this, we want to create, and we're creating a procedure called insert category, and this is going to take parameters. We saw the different modes last week. So in, we want category ID to be the name of our parameter, and we want it to be an integer. We have category name, and we want it to be a varchar, let's say 100. So I'm giving the names of the parameters based on the column names that we want to insert into. We also have the last update. I'll just write last update like this. So you can name your parameters anything you want, and I want this to be a timestamp, let's say. Now I've done all of this. The next thing I want to do is to now begin, and I want to declare an exit handler. So I'll put declare, and my action is exit, and I want to do this handler for duplicate key error. So I will say the code is 1062. You don't need to memorize the code. This is just for illustration. So I want to declare exit handler for 1062 like this. Because the statement is compound, I need to put a statement. So I can either put a statement within begin and end here, begin and end, and write my statement, which is a better way to do this, so you don't have to have compound statements all over the place, or you can just go straight to do it without beginning and end if it's just a little statement. So my statement is select, and what I want to write there is an error has occurred, and I want it to be duplicate key for category ID. Now I'm not specifying which key is duplicate in this illustration, but towards the end of the lesson I'll show you how to write your statement so that it displays exactly the problematic insert that you have. So when I end this, I will continue my statement. My statement now is to insert into the category ID. So that's my statement for the procedure, what I want the procedure to do. So I've declared the handler first, and the handler is to exit once there's a duplicate error. Now when you do this handler, one of the best things for you to do is to use a rollback statement. So in the event that the duplicate occurs after other things have been inserted, when you begin like this, you can roll back first. Use rollback before you continue, okay? And then we select. So we can indent this if we want it to be readable. So you can use a rollback like this so that you can roll back all of the operation, and you can put a message here: operations have been rolled back. So you can put a rollback. You might not put a rollback. Read more about it and do what is the best practice for your use case. But I'll use the rollback here to illustrate. So once we have more than one insert statements, several have gone through before that, you want to roll back when you have that. So we want to insert, we want this procedure to insert into the table, and our statement is going to be insert into. So recall how to use insert statement from part 1 of this course. We're inserting into the category table, category ID, the name and the last update, and the values we want to insert. Let me put this on a new line so you can see are the values in the argument or the parameter that the user will supply. So we want to insert category ID, we want to insert category name, we want to insert last update. Then we want to return the category supplied by the category ID. So now we'll do select count all. So you can change your select statement based on what you want to return from category, where category ID is equal to category ID. So they just inserted. So I'll always get 1, and when I successfully insert something into this database table. And once I do that, I want to end the delimiter, and I want to redeclare it back to the original. And then spelling is wrong. And then when this is done, we can now call and use the insert category to see how this goes. So let's go over this again. We create a stored procedure that inserts the statement. So this is the stored procedure that takes parameters, category ID, category name, and the last update based on what we want to insert in the column. Now we ignore this line of declare and handler. This category, insert category procedure, inserts new records into the category table based on what we supply as the argument: category ID, category name, and last update. We want to be able to handle the error that occurs when this is inserted, and MySQL has an error code of 1062 for duplicate keys. We're going to try to simulate this error by trying to insert into ID 10, which is already an ID for a category games, but we want to put that ID and want to insert something called maybe real stories into 10, and we want to trigger this error because ID 10 already exists and we don't want that to be inserted. I'm using the rollback here in the event that I'm inserting several and 1, 2, 3, 4 has gone through and the last one did not go through, and I want to roll back the operation. But this is not necessary in our use case here, but I'm just showing you where to add rollback statement when and the operations should be changed, and if one fails you want to roll back all the operations that you have inserted. So we do this like this, and then I will run this for it to create that stored procedure. If all is well, is created. If I refresh this and I go to the stored procedure, here I should see insert category here. Now I'm going to comment this out so that we can call that. So to call, recall again in the last lesson we call using call statement like this, the name of the stored procedure, which is insert category, and then the parameters that it takes. This we want to put in the ID 10. We want to put something like real stories in 10, and then we want to put the timestamp to be now. Because this has a duplicate ID, we should trigger the error that we have written here. so that once it gets duplicate ID, this error is triggered. So when I run this, I should get that message. An error has occurred, duplicate key, which is what we defined here to be defined for the error. So this is how we handle error, exit error. So it doesn't insert into the record, it just creates the error. In the event where I want this to be a continue statement, now the action should be continue, and I want to insert more than one, like this. For this, I will comment this out and I will rerun this table. So let me uncomment this to recreate a table. For me to recreate this, let me drop the previously created one, which is draw procedure, insert category, like this. I want it to drop and recreate. So I'm dropping to recreate just because we are testing and we're creating or recreating the tables. I want this to continue, and I want it to skip the one that is duplicate and insert the one that is not duplicate. So I'll run this as rerun, and then I will comment this out, and I'm going to call twice. So let's call something else here. Call insert category, and we want to insert, let's say, an ID of 31, and we want the timestamp to be now. Now we have a new category, which is Spanish series, inserted at 31. Is not duplicate, so this should go through. So we have duplicate for this, but because we use continue, we're not going to get any error. We're just going to return the number of what is found, the number of rows found for the category ID, which is 1, which means that this one was inserted. So that's the select count all from category, where category ID is category ID. So when I run this now, I'm going to not get an error, but I'll get the count of 1. So this is how we change that to continue it when there is an error. And if we come here to say I want to comment this out and select all from category, I should get all of the new inserted. We have Spanish series here. The first 10 we wanted to change games to series, did not work out because 10 is duplicate. So we have the new 131 inserted here. So when you insert things into the Secular database, you don't want to get confused for future assignments. You can delete all of the new rows we did. For me, I inserted religious series, SOPI, Spanish, everything from 17 down is what I inserted into my table. So it's not going to be the same as your table. So don't get confused. So now that we have looked at how to create handlers, let's look at something we call precedence in handlers. We can have several handlers here, and we want it to select one of the handlers to work with. Now in MySQL, the precedence is to work with the more specific error code or the more specific error handling. Now the error code is more specific like we have here, but if we have several error handlers, let's look at how to do that. So I'm going to comment this out for us to recreate a table with new error handlers. So let's change all of this. We're going to leave our insert statement. All we want to work on now is the handlers that we are declaring here. So we have this begin and end here. We want to just change how we declare the handlers. We're going to use it between begin and end here. So I will remove this, and let's just remove this. Let's do that like that. So we want to declare several exit handlers, and we want the MySQL to select the one with higher precedence. So let's declare a handler for SQL exception. I'll write it like this. Declare. We're going to make all exit handler for SQL exception. We can write this in uppercase too. And we want it to put the statements to be error was encountered. So this is the first error, and we want this to be like the message. We want to put another one. Declare exit handler. Let's say for the one we just did, 106.2. And we want it to display, we want the statement to be select duplicate key for category ID, and this is message. And then we want to declare another one. Let's declare this as an error code. Let's see. Declare exit handler for SQL state, and the state we want to do is, let's just put this, and the error code statement is select SQL state, and we want this to be error code. Once this is done, we are going to write a select statement here. Let me write an error has occurred, duplicate key or category ID. So we've declared all of the handlers and put all of the statements that we want, and we want MySQL to pick up what exactly what error is exactly of higher precedence. And this is how we do it, by declaring all of this within our begin and end statement, and then we start our insert statement here, run my stored procedure and then comment it out, and then I want to run this again. So we still have the same thing. So here I put an error has occurred, duplicate key for category ID, and that is what it printed out here. So we can actually specify what category ID has the duplicate key, because now I just streamline it to be message, has message here, so I get this message printed out. So try this several ways, but this is the basic idea of declaring different handlers for different types of errors, and the one with the higher precedence is the one that is more specific, and that's what MySQL will pick out first to work with. So that is all for precedence. Let's look at how we can make these conditions easier to read. Like, we have this condition and we have the code to be 1062. We don't know by default what 1062 is, or we always have to go through a reference manual to know what that means. Let's see how we can name these conditions that are like this. So I'm going to delete all of these different conditions, and I'm going to try to declare the condition before I use it in the handler. So what I'll do here now is to use the statement declare, and I want to call this condition duplicate key. So I'll say duplicate key condition for 1062, like this. So I can declare several conditions with different codes, or name conditions to make it easier for me. So I'll say declare duplicate key condition for 1062, and when I declare my exit handler now, so I'll say declare exit handler for, I'm going to call the name of the condition now for duplicate key. So this will be very useful when you do your large application and there are several things going on at the same time. So you want to learn how to declare condition or name a condition that uses all these codes that might be difficult or require reference for you to know what this is talking about. So I'll say declare exit handler for duplicate key, and I want to put my statements to be select. Now let me show you how to actually display the problematic argument. So category ID is the one that is looked at for duplicates, right? And I want this error message to be able to tell me which category ID in the event I'm inserting several category IDs. So I'll say select concat now, and in the pair of parentheses, what I will write here now is the statement I want to display for the user. So let's say I want to display duplicate key. So you can put your statement to whichever way you want. This is like your statements that you want to display. But what I'm going to put here now is the arguments for you to display what argument. So I'm formatting one time, and the argument that has a problem is the category ID. And I want it to say specifically which category ID. And when it's done doing that, I want to say duplicate key, the category ID that has a problem occurred, right? And then I want to make this the message, has a message like this. So once this is done, whenever we get this duplicate error, we're going to get exactly the ID that has the error. So I'm going to, I need to comment this out properly, and then I want to run this for us to have the table recreated with the error handling. So if all is well, it should recreate fine. It did that, and I want to now comment this out and try to call this for duplicates and see what it tells me. So when I run this now, it gives us duplicate key 31 occurred. So it's telling me the last error it encountered. So it's not telling me about the 10 real stories, it just told me about the last. And so this is where we add more error handling support. Either we're inserting one at a time, but what we know is that nothing has been inserted into this. It ran through it and duplicate key, so there's nothing to display for us but just the error message, and it exited because nothing was inserted into it. If we use continue, for instance, the ones that are not problematic will be inserted, and it will give us the display of, based on what we write here, select all from category where the category ID is the category ID we supplied there. So you can change the select statement for you to be able to better see what was inserted, or to return all of the category IDs to see all the last inserts. So there are several things you can do using the lessons you have learned from part 1 of this course. So we have looked at most of what we need to know about stored procedures for us to move forward. We are going to look more at how to handle this, or how to raise error conditions with signal and resignal in our next lesson. So thank you, and see you in the next lesson.